interesting story. So this is going to start where Avatar Aang is a child, 12 years old actually. My character will not be an airbender, well he sorta will be. So, during the Avatar Aang rule, when he's like 12 years old of course, a firebender, a waterbender, an airbender, and an earthbender decide on something. They're all 4 friends, and the firebender and waterbender are dating, and the earthbender and the earthbender girl and the boy, the girl airbender and the boy earthbender are also dating. They decide to make some preparations to make something amazing. These people are evil people. This is the rogue airbender. The girl is a rogue airbender, and they're all rogue from their nations. They said that they're going to make a child, that their children, which will have their elements, will combine into another one where they make more children, and that child and the children will have all elements. So it's kind of like the Avatar. They all evil day, and 100 years later, after the cycle has continued and continued, it's finally finished. One of them has it. A boy named Krishna was born, when he's about 5, one day an asteroid is falling towards the country where he's at. All the kids were given the destiny except for him. Because once that asteroid falls, he puts his hands up over his head to block, but then when it smashes against the skin, it doesn't hurt him, it just gets destroyed. He goes, huh? Then he feels weird as then he lifts his hand up and a boulder comes up. And he goes, huh? As he touches it, as it goes flying forward. He goes, whoa. Instantly he goes, let me try that again. He goes in a rhythm this time. He holds up his hand, a boulder comes out, and he punches it forward. He goes, awesome! And then he already knew, then 3 years later, he gets into a fight with some kids. This is Avatar Aang, who's still alive. But he's not actually, it's like, he's in the iceberg still. He's fighting a bully who swings a punch at him using firebending. It's a firebender. Christian then blocks and then punches back, but it turns to be a firebending punch, which knocks that kid out. Then his friends come as Christian charges, puts his hands together to maybe create like maybe summon an chunk of the earth in his hand, but then an air ball comes in his hand. He puts it below him thinking that's kind of cool, as then he rides around on it. He goes, whoa! Then he starts playing in the pool. Then when he splashes his hands, the wave cuts in half. He goes, awesome! Then he tells his parents on how cool it is. Then they start laughing because they're finally continued their great-great-grandparents' destiny. But then he says, now get to training. As then he goes, what? He goes, you no longer have free will. You will do as we say until we say so. He goes, no! As he lifts up a boulder and hits his mom with the boulder, then fire punches his dad into oblivion. As then he runs away. He was an only child, so the parents didn't have high expectations. So as he left, he ran away. Then he was about to get covered by water as he actually created a water whirlpool and decided to dig underground in that water whirlpool and cover himself up. Kind of like Godzilla's entrance in King of the Monsters, where he's kinda, stuck there in a whirlpool. So yeah, he's basically stuck there for the next 5 years. He's basically not 20. Because he is 15 when this happens. Same age as Katara and Sokka. So when this happens right after the Kyoshi episode. After Katara and Aang and Sokka are all flying throughout the air, they see a giant whirlpool. They see a miniature whirlpool. Aang says we should go see it. As then they look down, and then when Katara tries to waterbend it, it really actually works. It barely works, actually. She goes, But then a giant tornado comes and whips them down into the ocean of mud. They see Christian, who's actually decorated a room under there as he's meditating in the chair. He's not, he's not alive. Aang feels him and goes, the arrow on Christian's head lights up. Because remember, he's part airbender, earthbender, firebender, and waterbender. As Christian wakes up, as his eyes are glowing the same color, the avatar state. As he goes, but it's rainbow instead. His eyes are also rainbow, as then he awakens and then falls to one knee going, who are you? As Aang says, I'm Aang. Then he looks at his forehead saying, an airbender. He goes, I'm not an airbender. As then Christian actually screams, as then he creates an airball and dips out of there. And then flies to the sky, as he goes, ah! As he's very scared of them, because he hasn't seen a person in 5 years. Aang asks if he's alright when Christian lands on the ground. He goes, we're on water, you know. Then he says, come to the surface. As he's standing on water, he says, come on, why can't you guys stand on water? Aang says, I'm not a waterbender. Katara says, I am, but I can't. Sokka says, as he just turned his head. Christian goes, well, I can walk on water. He says, as then he screams, seeing a giant bison in the air. But then he also finds it adorable as he jumps on top of its head and starts hitting its head softly as he goes, Then Aang says, so, what's your name? He says, I already told you, my name's Christian. He goes, right, I'm forgettable. He goes, yeah, I can tell. He goes, so what can you do? Christian says, I can bend water. As he smacks two waves together, he says, huh, as he fire bends. Then he freaking earth bends. Then, after that, he air bends. As then she says, are you the Avatar? He goes, the f***'s the Avatar? Then he says, isn't that kid the Avatar? As then he says, my name's Christian, and I'm just... Oh my god. Well, I'm gonna stop this since there's no point. I'll finish this later.